The French, particularly Parisians, are known for their style, elegance, and love of good food, but you wouldn't call them cheapskates until now. The Paris Olympic Games are running on the tightest budget this century. The only games to match would probably be those in London in 1948, which became known as the Austerity Games. Paris 2024's spending is positively frugal compared to recent events such as Sochi and Beijing. And with big ideas about sustainability and reuse, how is Paris hosting the Games on the cheap? Recent Olympics have seen building projects left to rot due to the financial burden of maintenance and lack of foresight. The International Olympic Committee says almost all purpose-built venues are reused after the Games. But that rings hollow in cities like Athens and Rio. Almost none of the venues built for the 2004 Athens Games have stood the test of time. Even the iconic Olympic Stadium was closed in 2023 after faults were found in the roof. The problem was put down to a lack of maintenance. Remedial work is being done, but when the stadium will reopen is still unconfirmed. Something similar befell the swimming complex in Rio de Janeiro. 4 years after the Games, the pool was closed and it stands abandoned to this day. Arenas constructed for the Games create ongoing expenses long after the initial construction cost. Beijing's Bird Nest Arena has an annual maintenance bill of around $10 million, while Sydney's stadium costs a staggering $30 million per year. In fact, cities can be paying off building costs long after the Games have come and gone. Montreal only finished paying off its debt from the 1976 Games in 2006. It's not all bad, however, as if done correctly, cities themselves stand to benefit from the infrastructure built around the Games. Beijing spent over $22.5 billion constructing roads, airports, subways, and railway lines, as well as almost $11.25 billion on environmental cleanup, which inhabitants of the areas can benefit from indefinitely. The cities also stand to generate millions from tourists, spectators, sponsors, and media coverage over a much longer period of time than the Games themselves. Of the almost 40 locations in Paris that host events or are part of the Games infrastructure, only 3 are purpose-built: the Aquatic Center, the Port de la Chapelle Arena, and the Olympic Village. The rest are either already part of the Parisian landscape or will be temporary structures close to iconic sites in and around the city. That means the construction costs are less than $4.5 billion, about a tenth of China's spending on the Beijing Games. The running of the Games is expected to cost a similar amount, bringing the total spend to just under $10 billion, a snip. Often, the question ahead of most modern games is whether the city is ready. Despite some teething problems, the answer has generally been yes, just. However, there is no sign of rushing to finish projects as the temporary structures take shape in Paris. With so few new venues being constructed, the Paris Organizing Committee wants these games to be the first carbon neutral. For example, the only major venues built from scratch are the Aquatic Center in the northeastern suburb of Saint-Denis and the Port de la Chapelle Arena. The 5,000-seat Aquatic Center is built mainly from wood and has been put together like a giant Lego set. The 8,000-seat basketball arena is also made from wood, this time a skeleton clad in recycled aluminum. The Olympic Village to house the athletes is a Paris innovation from when it last held the Games 100 years ago. The temporary huts used a century ago are now updated to state-of-the-art apartments. Blocks of up to 8 stories are being constructed from wood and glass, and all the energy needed is derived from heat pumps and renewables. The authorities hope that using wood in such high-profile structures will spur the country's building industry to embrace lower emissions and reduce its dependence on concrete. Worries about the new constructions not being ready on time for the Games evaporated when President Macron opened the Aquatic Center in April. The venue hosted its first event, the Artistic Swimming World Cup, in May, ready for the Games in July. Across the other side of Paris, the only other purpose-built stadium is the Port de la Chapelle Arena, and it's been hosting basketball games since the beginning of the year. Both sites are out of the central area of Paris and are part of a bigger plan to rejuvenate areas desolated by economic decline and poverty. Construction of the Olympic Village in the Saint-Denis neighborhood was also completed in early 2024. The facility will house 14,000 athletes competing in the Olympic and Paralympic Games. Once the Games are over, the blocks will be converted into social housing for some 6,000 people and office space for another 6,000. When Paris hosted the Olympic Games in 1924, it sparked an expansion of the iconic metro system. The same happened in 2024. However, not all the new lines proposed will be ready. None of the 4 new lines, numbers 15, 16, 17 and 18, that make up the Grand Paris Express will be open for the Games. Visitors arriving at Paris's main airport, Charles de Gaulle, will have an extremely long wait for a train to take them to the city centre. Line 15 isn't expected to be finished until the end of the decade. However, visitors landing at the Orly airport to the south of the city will use the new extended Line 14. This metro line runs all through the city's heart to the Olympic Village in the suburb of Saint-Denis. Probably the biggest technical problem to overcome is ensuring that the river Seine is clean enough for swimming events. Apart from being the venue for the opening ceremony, the river is due to host the swimming marathon and triathlon events. The river is not known for its water quality, and the organizers are spending millions making sure the stretch of water used for events is fit for swimming. Swimming in the Seine has been banned since 1923 due to untreated wastewater entering. The organizers are spending $1.5 billion on a system to treat wastewater that could end up in the river untreated. It should work if the weather stays dry, but there is no guarantee if the heavens open and it rains a lot. With the opening ceremony for the Games fast approaching, the Olympic Games organizers are on track to have Paris ready to host athletes and visitors alike.
Remember to hit the subscribe button and ring that bell to stay updated with our latest content. And while you're here, why not check out another one of our exciting videos? Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.